Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, the Energy Star Certification Training and Discussion for the Lithium Motor Group. Before we get started, I just wanted to run through a few housekeeping items today. So first, we will have an option for questions after each section. If you want to ask your question, please indicate in the chat that you would like to be unmuted, and we can unmute you and you can verbalize your question. Additionally, we do have closed captioning available. If you want to utilize that feature, you can access it by hovering your cursor over the bottom left side of your screen. There's a little chat bubble icon with a CC in it. Additionally, we sent the slides out to all registrants before the session, and then a recording will be sent out after today's session. With all that, I will now introduce Jerry Lawson from the EPA and Mamie Smith from ICF to get us started for today.
Hello, everyone. I left the big overhead light off for the moment. It's too bright or not bright enough in here in my office. So we welcome you and wanted to keep it informal. So my thanks to Mimi and Maddie at our contractor ICF, and encourage you even after today to send me any questions by email that come up later, and I'll rejoin towards the end when we are more formally taking questions. So thanks for being here.
Great, thank you, Jerry, and thank you, Maddie. Hi, everyone. My name is Mimi Smith. I am with ICF, the support contractor for EPA Energy Star Commercial Industrial Buildings. So today, like Jerry said, will be pretty informal. I'm going to turn my camera off here in a minute as we get into the slides. A lot of this information is stuff you may already know, but the bulk of what we want to focus on will be the screen sharing portion where I'm going to go through the process of actually applying for certification. So I'm going to turn off my camera now, but just thought I'd say hi, and then also reiterate that since there is such a small group today, we would like to give you the option to unmute and ask your question and engage in more of a discussion that way. So if you do have a question that you'd like to speak instead of type in the chat, please just put that in the chat and we'll have our host will unmute you and we'll be able to have that discussion. So I'm going to go through the slides and then jump into the screen sharing, but at any point throughout the presentation, if you do have a question, please just throw it in the chat and I'll pause and we can talk through that. So I'm going to stop my video for now and we will get into it. Okay. So here are some of our learning objectives. Number one, the value of the Energy Star certification. You probably already know all of the great value that you get from being Energy Star certified since you are here today. So we won't spend too much time on that. And then we're also going to talk through the eligibility requirements for certification, how to apply in Portfolio Manager, and then also how to track the status of applications. There are a few helpful links on this slide as well, which you should have received the slides. And if you didn't, we can send those to you again. But these are just kind of our outline for how today will go. So the first thing we will get into is the value of Energy Star certification. So like I said, I will move through these slides a little quickly because you all most likely understand the value since that's why you're here. But these are just a few of our really great graphics and stats that are really impressive and helpful to know. So right here, you'll just see that Energy Star itself is recognized by more than 90% of Americans, which makes it a really great recognition program to be a part of. It is also the biggest label in energy efficiency, and for more than 25 years, it has been identified as such, with over 7 billion products, 2.3 million homes, 41,000 buildings and counting, and 250 industrial plants and counting, which is really exciting. This graph here, you will see that more than 40,000 buildings have earned EPA's Energy Star since 1999, which is really impressive. And together they account for more than 6 billion square feet of floor space. You can also see from this chart that the number of certified buildings has been increasing steadily each year. And you can note that all the bars cumulatively add up to more than 40,000 buildings. Energy Star certification is also more than just a label. And for buildings, it's an entire framework upon which thousands of organizations have built their energy management programs. And it's also proven to be a bridge between engineering and facilities teams and everyone else, be that buildings occupants, employees, management, or customers as well, since everyone has a role to play in saving energy. And Energy Star is what brings all of these stakeholders together by making energy efficiency fun and also accessible. So again, just the three main messages that Energy Star likes to emphasize as our biggest value for certification. Number one, it is cost effective for energy management to be practiced. Number two, the building management is taking concrete actions to protect the environment through energy efficiency. And number three, building operations and occupant comfort and safety will not be sacrificed and are not sacrificed in the pursuit of energy efficiency. So there are no trade-offs. The last slide we have here for value is just additional values of earning certification for your property, including reduced operating expenses compared to non-certified properties, as well as the increased ability to control operating expense escalations as well. And then we also have this graph here, which shows a summary of several studies that evaluated the added market value of Energy Star certified buildings, which is really great. And then lastly, we have a few more stats here for you. So Energy Star is the nation's symbol of energy efficiency. And when you see Energy Star in a building, you know that it means that building is more efficient than 75% of similar buildings nationwide. Additionally, Energy Star certified buildings on average use 35% less energy and cause 35% fewer greenhouse gas emissions, which is really great, especially with a lot of new benchmarking regulations being set from state and local ordinances. This is a great way to get ahead of all of that. Okay, I will pause there and see if there's any questions before we jump into our next section. I'll keep an eye on the chat. I don't see any currently, so hopefully I'm not moving too fast, but I know most of that information was probably a refresher for a lot of you. So I'll pause quickly here. Alrighty, not seeing any questions pop into the chat. I will move right along. And just a reminder, if you'd like to ask your question out loud, just let us know in the chat and we can unmute you. Okay, so eligibility requirements for certification. So you must be located in the United States, a US territory, or owned by the US. Now, I was told that Lithia Motors Group has a few properties in Canada, and we are in partnership with our Natural Resources Canada to get certification through them. So if you do have any questions or if you want to look into that for the Canadian properties, there's information on that slide, on this slide, to do so. And we can also put you in contact with someone from that team to work on those properties. Also seeing here. Okay, great. Yeah, 30 plus properties in Canada. So definitely we can get you in contact with our folks over at Natural Resources Canada to work on benchmarking through their site and through all of that information. So we can definitely get you set up. Just let us know. But again, just some review here for eligible properties in the US. You must meet the definition of, for your case, of the vehicle dealership, and then you also must receive an Energy Star score of 75 or higher. So the entire property will be assessed based on all the metrics you enter in when benchmarking your dealership. And if you see that it has a score of 75 or higher, you will be eligible to apply for certification. This slide here just shows you some of the other property types that are eligible to receive scores. So the buildings marked with an asterisk are not eligible for Energy Star certification, but you can definitely still benchmark them. Of course, we're focused on dealerships today, but just to give you an idea of all the other property types that we have eligible. So again, the Energy Star score itself is just a simple number that can be understood by all stakeholders. So it's a very standardized scale and can be compared across all vehicle dealerships across the country. When it comes to developing the score, as you know, we were able to finally develop the score for dealerships and make it eligible for certification because we were able to gather a robust data set of similar vehicle dealerships with all sorts of metrics to be able to have something to compare each individual dealership to and to be able to give an accurate score when benchmarking all of these properties. You'll see here as well, we also have some other information on this slide just showing that EPA will analyze and filter this data to ensure the robustness and the quality. And from there, it gets put into a statistical model to correlate all of the energy data of the dealership use details to identify the key drivers of energy use and also accounting for weather variations. And then, of course, it'll compare all of this data to the specific property you're benchmarking and then be able to come up with an estimate and determine where the building or the dealership ranks relative to all of the others.
Hey, Mimi, we did get a question in.
Oh, perfect.
It says, would service centers or body shop buildings be considered vehicle dealerships for the purposes of pursuing certification?
This is a good question here, and we'll actually get into it in a minute, but I can jump over and just speak to it really quickly. So specifically when we're talking about places like, or use types like paint or body shops or service bays, those should be included in the overall dealership gross floor area. And we do have some extra FAQs, which I will pop in the chat as well to sort of explain that more. But if you have these spaces within your dealership, then they should be encompassed into the whole dealership itself. If it is a standalone body shop or service center, I think that would be something different and we'd have to specifically look into the property itself. But if it is attached to the dealership, then yes, you'll want to include that in the entire building gross floor area. I also see here, Jerry put it in the chat, that the data collection survey for vehicle dealerships was conducted by NADA. Big shout out to all of their hard work for pulling this together. Alrighty, that does lead us into our next section here. So Maddie, if there's no more questions, I'll pause really quickly to see if any come in, but we'll get into just some tips for dealerships specifically.
I'll come in so far.
Okay, great. So the first thing is just the definition. So vehicle dealerships as defined by EPA applies to dealerships that sell new and used light duty, medium duty, and heavy duty cars and trucks and allows dealership owners to evaluate their energy performance relative to their peers. Again, we've added a link here just to help easy access to get to the Energy Star certification page, but that is just the overall definition of what we are classifying as vehicle dealerships. So the first thing I'll touch on here is benchmarking waste oil. We've seen this come up with a few of the first dealerships that have applied and have been approved. But the first few things here is because you must account for all energy used at the property, the waste oil does need to be measured and entered as fuel when benchmarking. So when you're getting set up and putting all of your information in to create your property record, you will want to benchmark waste oil as fuel oil number 2, which you can see on the screen here is circled there as a source of your property's energy. And we also have an FAQ that was actually also recently updated that I'm going to pop in the chat as well, and I'll be able to explain a little bit about it. But let me just get this in the chat for you all. Okay. So some vehicle dealerships will use waste oil from the oil changes or other things to heat the buildings. And sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked. So, okay. But anyway, you must account for all this energy, like I said. So what you'll want to do, one acceptable way that EPA has just deemed will work is measuring the waste oil to multiply the number of hours that your waste oil burner is running, which you can get by reading the counter on the oil burner, by the gallons of oil burned by the equipment per hour. And this should be available on the equipment nameplate or in the user manual. And EPA will recommend that you use this data, you enter this data into Portfolio Manager monthly. You'll need to track your hours used in a separate spreadsheet, but you'll want to add all of those up and then enter them monthly, the amount used. So hopefully that is a little bit helpful if you do have waste oil as an energy source at your dealership. If you do measure it in any other way, please reach out to us and we will work with you to figure out what way is acceptable to be able to enter that in and get your energy use measured correctly. And I can add in our help desk link, which you can send any and all questions to, but also specifically for entering in waste oil. Okay, the next one we have here is a tip for entering in any renewable energy sources, so solar or wind. You'll need to enter in 2 different electric meters, 1 meter for the grid electricity, since almost all buildings with solar and or wind will still use energy from the grid, even buildings that might generate more energy than they use each month. And so most buildings don't have the capacity to store the energy they generate to be used later. So like when the sun isn't shining or when the wind isn't blowing. And so any energy the building uses that physically comes from the grid should be entered into this meter as grid electricity. Quick note here, it's not sufficient to enter in a net meter, which only shows the difference between the energy you import from the grid and the green power you export back. So this is something that we do see every once in a while, and we will have to reach out to you to redo that meter because EPA has deemed that an unacceptable way to account for your renewable energy. The second meter you'll want to include is the meter for your on-site renewable or green power. And so this will specifically track all of the electricity generated by your solar or wind system. And you may generate more energy than you can use. So you'll want to enter both the energy that you generate and the energy that is exported back to the grid. We have lots of helpful technical guides and FAQs to walk you through the process of setting up any renewable energy sources. So I'm going to add those into the chat now. But of course, you can always reach out to us with any questions about benchmarking any of these as well. Okay, so we have 2 FAQs and technical guides, and then we also have a YouTube demo video that will walk you through these steps as well. So I'm going to put in the FAQ and technical guides and then the demo video. go. Okay, so that should be helpful. But of course, if you do have any questions, please reach out to us with that help desk link as well, or you can email Jerry as well, and we can get you set up with the right person. Okay, the last one we have here for tips are going over some of the use details and default values that are generally used for dealerships. So again, the default values will be entered in if you don't have exact values at the moment. So if you're just getting set up and you just want to create the property record, but you're not sure the exact values yet, you can use some of these default values that will be here. But of course, you'll want to change that to the exact values once you are ready to apply for certification. So these are the use details and values required in Portfolio Manager to generate an Energy Star score. And a few notes here, gross floor area should include all the space within the building, including sales floors, any offices, any conference rooms, vehicle service centers, parts storage areas, any waiting rooms or staff break rooms, restrooms, hallways, and stairwells. Gross floor area should not include any exterior spaces such as vehicle parking areas. So you'll want to add parking as a separate use type, but you will not include this in the property GFA. So I'll show you how that will look once you are done benchmarking and you've set up your property. Again, this speaks to the question we had earlier. Spaces like paint or body shops or service bays should definitely be included in the property GFA. Again, that's if they are a part of the dealership as a whole. Standalone service bays or body shops would be separate, and we'd have to take a look at that property to see if that would fall under this category of vehicle dealership. But if they are included, then you'll definitely add those to the overall gross floor area. The next one we have here is number of workers on the main shift. So you'll see the default value there is 1.7 workers per 1,000 square feet, and the minimum worker or the minimum value must be at least one worker on the main shift. For the average number of vehicles in inventory, you'll see the default value there as 7.6 vehicles per 1,000 square feet and at least one vehicle in inventory. A note here that motorcycles and ATVs should not be included and really shouldn't be benchmarked as a vehicle dealership if those are the main merchandise. So again, this goes back to the definition of dealerships themselves. The average number of vehicles in the inventory should include the light, medium, heavy duty cars or trucks, new or used. Any agriculture or construction equipment, snowmobiles, or watercrafts as well should also not be included in that inventory. So I will pause there if there are any questions about use details and those default values.
No questions have been submitted yet.
Okay, great. We'll keep an eye on the chat. Thanks, Maddie. And then optional use details you'll see on the screen here are number of computers and weekly operating hours. So the ones that are listed above are required to generate the score, but the ones at the bottom are not required. So you can include them, but you don't have to. So that is up to you. We also have an FAQ here for determining the number of vehicles in the inventory. So I'm going to add that into the chat here. Okay, great. Alrighty, well, I think at this point we are going to jump into our screen sharing portion. So I will get set up here and we're going to walk through a demo of actually applying for certification. This will be an overview of the process on this slide here. So the first step will be to benchmark your property in Portfolio Manager and achieve a score of 75 or higher. So I'll show you what that looks like in Portfolio Manager, but it'll be pretty easy to tell if you are eligible to apply or if you are not. Once you do that, you will begin the online application, and then you will need to have a licensed professional conduct a site visit and verify all the information within your application. You will then complete the online application, upload a scanned signed copy and submit that electronically to EPA. And then you will respond to any questions from EPA if necessary. So at this point is the review step. And right now we have 2 people on our review team specifically assigned to our vehicle dealership reviews. And so they will review those and get back to you if they have any questions about, usually it's things like gross floor area or something within the meters, or verifying some meter information as well. And then you will receive a notification of the application status once that is complete, and you'll be able to track that status as well. I do see a question here. So I'm going to read that quick and then I'll read it out loud as well. This might be a question for you, Jerry, if you want to jump in. We have a question asking, does Energy Star have preferred partners that collaborate with only dealerships, specifically for solar, wind turbine companies, or meter readiness, etc.?
A couple of things to say. We do have a partnership with service providers, call them SPPs around here. I will send a link. We have a directory for the service and product providers. But secondly, Mike Zatz, our section chief, who met Lawrence at the I believe it met Lawrence, or maybe Taylor too, at the NADA show in Las Vegas with Kai and company. Mike met a guy that does solar for dealerships. So we have exchanged emails, and I expect to be meeting with him in the very near future. So I will keep in mind, and not a bit surprised by Lithia's interest, and see what else I can learn about this company that does seem to focus on dealerships with solar. I guess I would also add, I'll provide a link in the chat. EPA has a program called Green Power Partnerships. That is a partnership program. You don't have to join to take advantage of their toolbox, in which they have various resources for considering solar and I think wind as well. So I'll get that link in the chat for Green Power Partnership. And as I talk to this company that works with dealerships on solar, I'll be back in touch, Taylor, with you.
Great. Thanks, Jerry. All right, so I'm sharing my screen now. Could you just confirm you see it, Maddie, and it looks okay?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, cool. And then since I have the screen sharing up, I won't be able to see any questions come in the chat myself. So please interrupt me if we do start getting questions at this point.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay, so I'm just going to start out with our homepage, Energy Star homepage here, just to give you a bit of orientation, although I'm sure you're already familiar. So this is our homepage for Energy Star, and to get to the certification benchmarking section, you'll want to click into commercial buildings, and this will bring you to our commercial buildings homepage. There's lots of other resources here that I definitely recommend checking out, but to get to benchmark or recognition, you will click either of those. And this is to get set up in Portfolio Manager, which at this point, you may already be ahead of the game here. So from here, you'll see you can easily access Portfolio Manager by logging in right from this screen. But you can also go to the Earn Recognition section, which is over on the left-hand side right here. Click into that, and then you'll see the various recognition programs that we do have. The one we'll be talking about today, of course, is Energy Star certification, but we do also have some other ones if you are interested in learning more about those. So I'm going to click into that here just to show you. This again is our homepage for Energy Star certification. There's lots of information here if you are interested, and lots of the information that we did touch on. I'm going to head back to the benchmarking screen and get us into Portfolio Manager. So you can click in right from here. I already have it pulled up in this tab, so I'm just going to switch over to our tab here, and we'll just go to the Home tab. So this is, again, your My Portfolio dashboard, where all of your properties will be listed if you have already started benchmarking different properties. So today we're going through the process of applying for certification. So I'm going to click into my test dealership here. Alrighty. And we are going to walk through those steps. So the first thing is once you're in your property here in the summary tab, you'll be able to tell if you are eligible for certification through this section right up here. So for me, actually, I'm going to zoom in a tad just to make it a bit easier. For me, you will see the apply for Energy Star certification. If you are not eligible, this will say not currently eligible. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard and show you what that will look like. So instead, it will look something like this if you are not eligible. Now, this property is not eligible because it has no energy meters added to it, so that makes sense. But it will give you, if you click into this, it will give you the reasons why your property is not eligible, and you'll be able to assess what's going on from there. Again, gonna head back to my property that is eligible, and we will walk through those steps. Okay, so once you have this page here, again, you'll want to just make sure that everything looks good. You'll be able to apply. You'll have your score listed here. You can also flip through some of these tabs again to just take a look at what's going on with the details tab and then your energy, water, waste, and materials tabs as well. But we're going to get started by clicking into apply for Energy Star certification. So the first page it's going to bring you to is this about your property section. And as you'll see over on the right side here, it'll give you the process of how your application is going and the steps that you need to complete to get everything done. So this first thing is the property description, and this is essentially what you'll need to fill in for the reviewers to be able to understand what this property is. Yes, we'll know the property type, but it's helpful to know a few more details about the property. So some examples for a property description, you'll want to be detailed, you'll want to describe how the property is used or how the services are provided, and you'll describe who's in the property as well. So a good example for a property like a vehicle dealership would be something like this. I'm going to pull in here. So new and used car dealership, including 2 showrooms, parts department, and service department. Service department has 30 work stalls / hoists. The facility sells and services automobiles, no heavy trucks. This is very helpful, informative, detailed, and would be given a check mark when reviewed by our team. From there, you'll want to scroll down here and just make sure everything is listed property. So we have the property name for the building registry. So this will be the name that will be added to the registry of Energy Star certified buildings. So you'll want to make sure that corresponds with whatever you want to show up there. And then you can include a property photo. As you'll see, that's optional, but if you'd like to, you can upload it through here. Once you finish that, you will click continue at the bottom, and it'll bring you to the contact information page. So the first one will be who owns the dealership. So you'll want to check your organization here, and you can also add it by clicking into this button on that side there. The next one will be, does this organization manage this property? Yes or no? Most of the time it will be yes. And then you'll answer the question, does a service and product provider assist in the energy management of this property? And so if you are working with a specific service and product provider, you can click yes here. If you're not, that's totally fine, and just leave it as no. And then you'll scroll down to this box, which is the contact information, and you'll want to enter in the primary contact for the application. So this is the person that you'll want to receive any questions if we do have them with the application. It does say the person we should call. We will most likely not call you. We will most likely send you an email. So this will be the person that will want to be prepared with any questions if we have them. So you can add that through here if you need to. And then the signatory for the application, this needs to be a direct employee of the dealership. So someone who works at the dealership and can ultimately sign on behalf of this application being submitted. So you will add that there. And then the licensed professional. So whoever you end up having come and take a visit of your property and verifying all the information in the application is correct, you will select that here. You can hit continue. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. So as you can see what just happened here, if you do make any mistakes, Portfolio Manager will let you know and will highlight what's going wrong here. Okay, the next step we have is award information. So with Energy Star certification, you will have the option of 2 different decal looks that we will send you. So you can either select the blue and white or the etched look, depending on what you're looking for. And also a note here, if you are looking to receive extra decals, you can reach out to our help desk or our email address, which will be listed in this slide deck, if you would like to order extra decals for multiple entrances. And that's at no cost to you. So just reach out to us and we'll be able to get those to you if you'd like them. You also have the option for no decal, but I feel like you probably want the decal. It looks pretty nice. And then the next section we have here is delivering the award. So you'll want to make sure that this is who the award should be addressed to. Again, this is really helpful if the primary contact and who we're addressing the award to are the same person, or at the very least, this person is someone who will be able to receive the package once it's shipped to the mailing address. So you'll just want to make sure that all of that is correct. And then you can add in the information here for who the congratulations letter should be addressed to as well. Hit continue. Alrighty, so now this is the eligibility details. So you'll want to make sure that this part here is the energy consumption information is filled out. So this is just the application letting you know what 12 months of energy consumption the score and the application is based off of. So it'll give you an automatic period ending date. Usually that's the one you'll want to stick with, but you can change that by clicking down in this drop arrow here. And then you'll scroll down for any alerts and issues that are going on with the property. So of course, the first one we have for today is this is a test property. You will not be benchmarking a test property most likely, so you will not have that alert. And then meter has a start or end date within the 12-month application period. So this is something you might need to address or add an explanation for. For today, I'm just going to bypass these and just say not accessible at this time, just because it is a test. But of course, you will want to go back and address any of these issues if they do come up. Once you've done that, you can select Save for Signatures.
Hey, Mimi, we do get a question in the chat.
Okay, great, sure.
It says, can the signatory be a corporate employee or do they need to be physically located at the dealership?
That is a really good question. They just need to be a employee of the organization. So if they don't work at that specific property, that is okay, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong. They just need to be a employee of the property itself. So that should be fine. We just try to make sure that the licensed professional doesn't sign on behalf of the signatory. There just needs to be those 2 signatures there. Great. Okay, so at this point here, you'll see the screen we are on is to generate the application for signatures. So at this point, you'll download, clicking this button, the PDF version of your application. It might just take a minute here. And once this is downloaded, you will be able to either digitally sign, that is totally okay, or print it out, sign it, and then rescan and upload. I'm going to download it here just so it's a little bit easier to see. There we are. So you'll be able to scroll through and see what's going on with your property versus in terms of the score. You'll see all the information you input, and we recommend just taking a look through to make sure everything looks correct before you print it out. So just verifying that all this information is accurate. Of course, you'll need to actually go through and select yes or no to all of these questions. All of these questions should mostly be yes. If there is a no, we might reach out to you with questions as to why you put no and didn't change what is wrong. So it's really just a checklist for you to go through and ensure that all this information looks correct. And then down at the bottom of the page, you will see, let's see here, you will see this page for signatures. So we have this signature for whoever did the site visit. So the licensed professional can designate someone else to go do the site visit, but as long as they are the overhead approving of whoever conducted the site visit, that's totally fine. You'll enter that information there. The licensed professional will then need to add their stamp with the license number included here, and then the signatory agreement will be right here as well. Okay, so one other thing to note is that if you do have an odd meter usage pattern, so this one looks pretty typical for electric grid, that would be fine. But if anything looked a little odd, or if something happened where for 1 month, I don't know, the dealership was closed or something like that, you could add that in the notes here, just so that the reviewers know, oh, okay, there's a reason for this odd usage, and it's less likely that we'll reach out and ask questions about that. But if there is anything a bit odd about the usage pattern, we might reach out and ask, why in February or March was your fuel oil usage so much higher, something like that. And we'll just ask for confirmation of those utility bills just to approve all of that information. Okay, so once that's been generated, you will be able to hit this continue button here. And like I said, the next step will be the site visit. So at this point, you'll want to input all the information of when the site visit was performed. So we're just going to say then, and then you'll have to put in who the site visit was performed by, and then who it was verified by as well. The site visit results. So based on the site visit, were any issues identified? You'll hopefully select no. And then cost-free verification. So we do have some LPs who will provide services pro bono, and we do have an LP finder linked in this deck, but we can also throw the link in the chat as well. And so if you were able to find an LP through that, we just ask if it was cost-free, yes or no here. And then we will hit continue. And this next step will bring us to kind of the last section where if you do need to change anything, this would be your chance. But this is basically the final submission page. So you'll have to include the application tracking number right here, which can be found on the application in the lower right-hand corner. Zoom in there for you. Right down here of any of the pages. So you'll copy this number right here and input it into this section. And then you'll want to make sure that everything was signed and stamped, everything was signed by the signatory, all the checkboxes were marked complete, and the tracking number entered matches the above tracking number on all of the pages of the submitted PDF. Once you do that, you will finally attach your signed document. This is where I will not be moving along with the rest of the submission since this is a test. I don't want to submit this today, but this would be your final step. So you would choose your file, you would select it, and then you would hit submit right here. At that point, your application would be officially submitted and you'd be able to track the status of your application through another section, which I'm about to show you at this point. So I'll pause here and see if any questions have come up.
No additional questions.
Okay, great. So at this point, like I said, you would hit submit. We are not going to. So I'm just going to hit cancel, bring us back to our main page here. And you'd be able to track any of your applications, the status of your application through this recognition tab right here. So these are properties that I have started applications for, but have not submitted because they are tests. However, you'd be able to track the status right through here, and it would give you an action whether anything was needed from you. So again, that's the recognition tab, and that would be under the My Energy Star certified applications, and you can easily track that there. If we do have questions for you, you'll see the status as questions for applicant, and you'll be able to access that and go in and see what any of the questions are. And again, you'll receive those questions via email. So whoever you designate as the primary contact for the application will receive any questions we might have. Alrighty, at this point here, I am going to bring us back to our slides. And we only have a few more to go through. So stop that there. And pardon me as I skip through this screenshot section. So once you've submitted your application, like I said, you'll be able to track that status through this section right here, which we just showed on the screen. And once everything is submitted and we're reviewing, it's really in the hands of the reviewers. So just to go over kind of timeframes for when you'll hear back, the application turnaround time in 2024 will vary based on the time of the year and the volume of applications received. So submissions between February and October, our review time is about 4 to 7 business days, I would say. But once we hit later fall and into December, later October into December, review times get up to about 4 to 6 weeks. So this is just based on the volume, and since early December is our cutoff date for the current year's certification eligibility, we just get a high influx of applications coming in then, and so reviews just take a bit longer. So I would highly recommend, as a reviewer myself, if you can, getting those applications in earlier in the year. You'll hear back faster, you'll get all of your decals and congratulations letters faster, and it does make our lives a little bit easier as well. So that's just a little bit about timeline. The award packages themselves are mailed weekly. So we also do all of that packaging work ourselves. So you expect your package within 4 weeks of the application being approved. Depending on, again, time of year when we send it, that can be shorter or longer. But again, maximum really is that 4-week time frame. And then again, the year listed on the Energy Star certification is based on the year in which the application was approved. So any application submitted from this point forward will be for the year 2024. And so your decal will say 2024, and your congratulations letter will also say that, as well as the certificate. I do see Jerry popped in the chat our licensed professional finder link and the overview for licensed professionals. So thank you for doing that. Definitely check those links out. You're very, very helpful. One last thing to note here is that if we do have questions on the reviewing end, we will send you an email, of course, and you'll have 30 days from that date to respond to any questions. If you don't respond within that time, your application will automatically expire within Portfolio Manager. However, there is a bit of flexibility there. If something just got lost, or something happened in that time frame and you weren't able to get back to us, we can probably work with you, but just to let you know, your application will automatically expire after 30 days if we have not heard from you. Lastly, Energy Star is not a forever certification, so you'll have to reapply every year and renew that certification. Once you get into the swing of it, after a year or two, it gets pretty routine. So the more the better, I guess I would say. But yeah, you will have to reapply every year. Alrighty, and then our last slide here is just going over, once you are approved for Energy Star certification, it'll be super exciting, and you'll be able to communicate your achievements via your decal at the entrance of your property. You'll be able to take advantage of all of our materials to communicate with stakeholders about your certified dealership, which are available at this link listed here. And then you'll also be able to consider a newsletter article, email blast, website or blog post, or any other announcements to promote your certified property or properties. Okay, so at this point here, we'll go do a little recap of what we touched on today. Again, the value of Energy Star certification, the eligibility requirements, how to apply within Portfolio Manager, and then of course, how to track the status of your application. On this slide here, you'll see a lot of extra help links listed. So again, we have our help desk link, we have that licensed professional finder, we have our Energy Star trainings link listed here. So this will guide you to anything with additional trainings. So similar to this one, but more geared towards general properties. We have also YouTube videos, other PDFs, and our how-to documents as well. And then we also have our guidance on certification and our energy treasure map for vehicle dealerships. This is a super helpful tool at the bottom there, just when going through benchmarking your property and getting set up for certification. Last but not least, we have specific FAQs for dealerships listed here. So please take advantage of those. A lot of them we've sent in the chat already, but just an extra place to find them. And that brings us to the end. So with our last 8 minutes here, we'll open it up for any more questions, pop my video back on. We can probably take the slide down actually.